I'm Graham Cooke, GC Cooke. I'm here to talk to you about the future of commerce. I've been in e-commerce for over 25 years. Whether working at Google, I was working on Google Analytics for a couple of years and understanding how to measure commerce. Really saw the sort of difficulty there was in trying to understand customer behavior and how to actually change customer behavior. So I went and founded a company called Qubit. We're an AI personalization technology. We were serving over 1 billion users a month, 1 billion shoppers a month, tens of billions of recommendations and experiences. And then I sold that business in October 2021 to a company called Coveo, and we IPO'd. And I'm here, I'm a free agent here. I'm not selling anything today except for knowledge. And so I'm really excited to talk about what I've been working on for the last year I wrote a book about the future of the web and how that's going to impact all of things from commerce and AI, and I'm really here to talk about that and share the knowledge of where I see this industry is going, and maybe you can buy a book. But I'm really excited to see so many of you wanting to hear about this today at the Excel Center, and I actually haven't been to the Excel Center since the Elizabeth line, and wow, was that a difference getting here. Who felt the difference of the Elizabeth line? Yeah, a few of you. That's a big difference. All right, anyway. And so, what we're going to look at today is commerce in 3 acts. The first act, which I feel very important we visit, is the Industrial Revolution. We're going to go that far back to understand why we are where we are today and where we're going to go next. Then we're going to look at the web revolution and the power shift of the consumer. And then we're going to look at the AI unleashed and what this leads to in terms of the future, the transition, the digital twin. Your next customer that you're going to be selling to will be the digital twin. So, the first thing, really what I covered in my book, is just how amazing it was that there's this very logical journey which really started with the early manufacturing processes. When we were able to actually go from an era of where the demand far exceeded the supply, prior to the machines and the ability to mechanize production, to make clothes, to make products, to make makeup, all these things. Prior to that, the demand always exceeded the supply. Any form of really any goods that you'd buy 300 years ago came at an extremely high cost, and they were very hard to get, and really they were most of commerce was only for the wealthiest people out there. Along comes the Industrial Revolution, the mechanization, globalization of the last 30, 40 years, and what we've ended up with is a scenario where we are able to produce anything and everything at breakneck speed. And really, what did that do to the industry? Well, that created a supply that was greater than demand. So we took this massive shift in this sort of 100-year journey of where supply exceeds demand, and really what we get is the need for figuring out how to match interest or create demand amongst customers to actually want to buy products. And so that leads to this sort of flipping of where there's an oversupply of products, anything's available, everything's available, and we reach this very important moment of the advertising era. Who here is in marketing? Okay. And who here is in e-commerce, in actual, okay, so we got sort of 50-50 split. And really what we've experienced for the last sort of 50 years, 50 to 70 years, is a marketing-driven form of commerce. We've needed to find ways to convince the consumer this is the reason why you need to buy our stuff. And really we've been in this journey that's been accelerated by the digital advertising era, the ability to speak almost one-to-one and very economically to customers that would be interested in your products. And we've separated out and we've siloed out more and more and more these conversations between our customers and our products. And this has been the stage at which the businesses that have gone from good to great and the businesses have gone from good to worse have lost or won on this battleground of the marketing game. And so what really emerged over the last 10 years was this sort of web revolution, this mobile-driven, smartphone, iPhone-driven web revolution. And in that battleground, what happened is the consumer finally got the power, far more than the brands that are actually selling the goods. The consumer became in control. And so no longer was the advertising era the power dynamic, the moment to speak to the customer on your terms and tell them what they should do. The customer had the power to understand what they wanted, and they could validate and switch and move to different brands and really do anything they wanted. And that has created this intensely competitive environment that we've all been part of. And Amazon has done extremely well in that, because Amazon realized the thing the customer really wanted was very reliable, very quick delivery, and they didn't want to pay a lot for that. And that was a really hard thing to do if they got it right. It cost tens and tens of billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to do it, and if they got it right, they'd get that massive advantage. So Amazon figured that bit out. And then Google and the advertising platforms have done a very good job of inserting themselves in between the customer and your business. And they've done very well there. But this is all about to change. This is a landscape that is rapidly evolving because of AI and the next generation of the internet, which I'm going to show you next. So just before I move to that, the personalization era is where we are today. This is going beyond just one-to-one advertising. This is actually creating a version of your app and a version of your site and potentially even a version of your product for the individual's interests and tastes and intents. And this is the space I spent the last 12 years working in, finding ways to develop personalization technology that could scale and deliver those experiences. And it's pretty incredible, just by being able to surface the right product, what they actually would be interested in buying through a recommendation, and then giving them a reason why they should buy that product through something like a social proof. Here's the product you're interested, and here's why you probably want that product. You could increase your sales by 10% just by combining those two capabilities together. And huge opportunity to just get on that if you're not doing it already. But then you move into all the other types of personalization that are emerging now. This is a very, very interesting space, and one that's going to change dramatically now as a result of generative AI and what you can do with that. So to understand the potential for generative AI, I wanted to actually go through a little bit about what's actually happened in the AI space. I've been working on AI technology for 20 years from a product perspective. I'm not the actual scientific boffins that's building AI, but I've been working in this space for 20 years, and the last year, I can say, has been absolutely the biggest leap in this space that I've seen in the past 20, all in the last year, and that rate of change is only going to continue to grow. And really that moment that really drove that change was actually, we've been working with neural networks for 20 years. We've been working with AI systems to replicate how the brain thinks for over 20 years. We've had computing power now that's powerful enough to create very complex calculations very, very quickly. And so we've reached that, but we had that sort of computing power even 5 or 6 years ago. So the thing that really actually changed the game was this idea of us taking text and using text as a way of the training model rather than doing some more, some sort of deeper learning models. We just really took this idea of, let's replicate the brain, let's create all these parameters, like synapses in the brain, like neurons in the brain. The ChatGPT-4 has a 1.75 trillion sort of parameters, and each parameter is making its own independent decision based on what you input to it. And that system is trained on 500 billion tokens of information. And think of a token as a word or a colon or a full stop. Each one of those represents a piece of information that's trained off. And so you've got 1.75 trillion neurons, effectively, parameters, and 500 billion different possible words. And a lot of the space didn't actually think that that was a particularly interesting thing to be doing. Like, why would we want to take all these words? We can use AI to drive cars. We can use AIs to operate robots. But we actually got it to take words and images and pictures. And what we were very surprised to learn from that is it was extremely creative. It could actually come up with its own very complex creative processes. Hence the reason we call this generative AI. And this generative AI movement is so important because everybody in the world pretty much understands it. How many people here understood AlphaGo and what DeepMind did with AlphaGo? How many people here understand what ChatGPT is? Yeah, so we have created a sort of universal understanding of how to use an AI and an LLM. And then what we're looking at here now as a result of that is the ability for you to communicate at scale with your customer through a very natural language and a very natural form of communication, and you're able to do that at serious scale now. And so what that really means, we're operating at a pace of change that, like I said, in 20 years, I haven't seen this pace of change in the last year. It's been greater than the last 20 years, so it's going extremely fast. The AI is already better at writing, drawing, speech recognition, image recognition, reading comprehension. It's already beating humans in the tests there. And really what we're seeing is the fastest adoption of an AI technology in the history of all technology. We're talking about the fastest company, OpenAI, to reach 1 million users, 100 million users, the fastest to reach the revenue targets as well. And this is a mass adoption and a mass understanding. In other words, your customers know how to use this technology, and your competitors know how to use this technology. It's moving that fast. And so we're reaching a point of the rate of adoption in your own businesses and your understanding of your customer base is going to be driven by this sort of equation. So what we've got is a ton of investment, a ton of capital going into the market right now in all these different areas. And it's about being able to sift through all of these capabilities. I guess you've all been buying software as a service technology for the last 10 years. This is like having to go through the software as a service technology procurement and acquisition decision-making process in about 18 months. What you did in 10 years of procurement, you need to do in 18 months now in order to have a chance of staying ahead here. And so what we've got here is a lot of decisions to be made. And I'm going to talk about how to break that down for your organization. But I just want to talk about one more major development that happened literally yesterday or 2 days ago. ChatGPT can now hear, see, and speak. So they've just launched the capability for ChatGPT to understand an even more human-based type of language. Literally, you can talk to it, it will talk back to you, you have a conversation with it, you could say, tell me a story, I want you to write a story where I'm the character in the story, and it will just start telling that story automatically. And so, this is what all of the sort of we're reaching sort of billions of users are being conditioned to actually use now in what they do. And so what this looks like in sort of very practical terms, your customers now 10 to 100 times smarter than that sort of mobile movement. And they can literally take a picture and they can say, help me lower my bike seat. And these LLMs, and I'm using OpenAI as an example, there are many others on the market, will actually know your bike type, the size of screw. It will even be able to tell, based on a picture of your toolbox, if you've got the right tools in the toolbox. And so what this starts to create is the ability for the customer to fundamentally change the way they shop. The 30-year-old digital catalog model of commerce that we're all used to is completely about to go out the window. We're talking about completely different forms of navigation, of discovery, of recommendation, of comparison. And really what's being able to drive that is your customer's going to be able to say, I'm looking for this very niche thing about your product, or I'm very concerned about this very niche problem in the product, and it will be able to go through all the reviews data, all the image data. And I think what becomes quite transformational about this is as you adopt these technologies into your own platforms, you also have a new paradigm, a new method, a new behavior being created. The days of the Google search or the Amazon search might be completely already being upended now with this technology shift. And it's not going to be that Google search anymore looking for that product, or that Amazon search and looking for that product that people are so conditioned with today. This is, I would describe, almost at that sort of Kodak moment. And the Kodak moment was, Kodak invented the digital camera, firstly, and they just couldn't focus on the digital camera because they had such a bigger business focused on film and processing photos. And so what ended up happening is Kodak kind of did the digital camera. It was in a 0.1% team that were focused on it. Meanwhile, other companies did digital cameras, slowly ate away at Kodak's business. Digital cameras got better, and then what eventually happened is everybody started to switch to digital cameras. But it wasn't the digital camera that really hurt Kodak. It was the mobile phone, it was the smartphone, it was Instagram. I don't need to develop photos anymore. I can share them with my friends and my social network. And so I think what we're seeing here is the digital camera moment of AI. This is the digital camera moment. What is about to happen because of this conditioning and technology is the Instagram mobile phone moment. That's about to happen. That's the, where do you want to play the puck where it's going? That's where you want to play the puck. It's going in that direction. This is conditioning something new and something else. But in the meantime, it's imperative to understand it, and a wholesale adoption of these capabilities. I think, when I was working with the sort of hundreds of brands that used to use Qubit, some of these really complex problems that we were trying to solve with very large data science teams, some of these things are now, in the hands of all of you. You all have these capabilities around the using these LLMs to do things like customer data analysis. Being able to understand your most valuable customer. How often are they repeat purchasing? Why do they repeat purchase? How to pinpoint in on the needle in the haystack. We saw, again, at Qubit, I think it was about 0.3% of customers made up 30% of revenue. It was a tiny needle in a haystack of visitors to the site that, 0.3% of visitors that made up 30% of revenue. And this technology of mining your data and understanding what the customer is doing is there. Technology like the OpenAI code interpreter allows you to dig in and find this information. Now the good news, a lot of the SaaS companies here, Coveo, the guys who bought my company, all of these are adopting these capabilities now into your products. But it's moving so fast. You have to ask your suppliers, and you have to, are you able to deliver on the technology at the speed at which it's happening? Because you as organization and teams need to keep up with the rate of the customer, because the rate of the customer is the fastest ever adoption of a technology, faster than Instagram, faster than Facebook, faster than Google. They're directly using these AI systems. And so where this all starts to lead to is ultimately the digital twin. And I believe that this is that moment where, we've looked at Kodak digital camera and that sort of space. The digital twin is the smartphone, it's the Instagram, and it's the complete shift of the whole space. It's the bit that caught us all off guard. It's a 180-degree shift from where we are today. And really what that starts to look like is your customer will actually create a zero-party data system where they share all their data, everything about themselves, everything they do, every step they take, every sleep score, everything they eat, their health conditions, their travel, everything will be shared into a zero-party data set that nobody else can access using encryption, using the sort of same technology that we have, blockchains and Bitcoin and things like that. That's Web 3. Using those type of technologies and combining it with AI will create a understanding of themselves that's better than even they could ever understand themselves. We will as customers make better decisions, better informed decisions, guided by impartial AI systems that are based on our data, that no one else can access that information. And what will end up happening is we'll emit signals, anonymized signals out into the market, and we'll say, these are the things I'm interested, I need, and your AI will make those decisions. And then the brands and the businesses that want to supply products and services will communicate with that AI and say, well, I think I've got a solution for you. I've got this, and this is how it could work. And you'll actually end up with an AI to AI entire e-commerce marketing and e-commerce system. And really that's probably only 5 years away. We're very, very, very close to this happening because we're moving at this breakneck speed. And so really the key to this, and I've got a few minutes to open up for questions if anybody wants to get questions ready. The key to this will really be about first stage digital camera mindset. Don't be the Kodak film, adopt AI into your organization. And it's really about augmenting all the capabilities in the organization. Write emails faster, write marketing emails faster, create content on the website faster, images, it's all about scaling your operations. Almost think about it as if you all got another person in your team. One more person in your team, it's an AI, it helps you with your function, and it's just going to help you double what you do overnight. And then on top of that, you need to start to think about at your product itself, the product you produce itself, how do you actually innovate and put AI into that, and how do you prepare yourself to eventually become an AI to AI commerce strategy. And that's where we'll sort of hit next. So the conclusion is really, we've been on a 100-year logical journey to this point. Adopting AI solutions today is an imperative, and you have a huge amount of data and you have a huge amount of information that you can use to your advantage. And then think about how you'll start marketing to your customers AI. How to get ready for that at a sort of philosophical and strategic level today. And then just finish that, I wrote a book on next generation of the internet and sort of how AI and commerce plays into that. It's something I'd wanted to do for years. And so I've got 5 lucky winners can win a copy of the book. If you send me a message on LinkedIn, hashtag eCommerce Expo, or send me an email or connect with me on X, not Twitter, X. But thank you very much. I'll open to questions. Thank you. Thank you. So we had a question, we got one here, and then we had one over there, but we'll do 1, 2, 3 questions.
Hi there, thanks very much. I buy it, I think it's coming. So a very specific and practical question. I'm a product and UX guy, been doing it for 20 years. Working with a physical and digital retailer. They're at net zero on AI. Where are the lowest hanging fruit? Where should they start?
So the question is, you're a retailer, zero on AI today. I think it's about adopting something like an OpenAI enterprise. It's a software as a service product. Just getting a small group of people work on prompt engineering, sharing prompts, what prompts work, what didn't work, because prompt engineering is a lot, it's not just Googling something, it's actually quite different. It's like going from typewriter to computer, but 10 times. So I think getting small team together, that sort of the test team on prompt engineering, and trying to augment some of the tasks that you guys have in your team around, let's say, user research. I've been doing it where I get it to write user research questions for a product I'm building, and it does a surprisingly good job. And it sort of writes the questions out, and then you put them into a survey, and it would have taken me a day or 2 to do that. It can do it in an hour. Then you save your prompt, and you iterate on your prompt, and then you reuse your prompts. So yeah, I'd recommend that. And where's the mic? Yep, we have a question here, and then we'll try and come to you.
Hi, I just had a question about what worries you about this future, and what sort of policy restrictions do you think you would consider to make sure we protect our future? Because there is the potential that this gets out of control.
Absolutely. So, question about what worries me on this. It's definitely a valid concern. The risk is not AIs turning on humans. The risk is humans using AIs to turn on humans. And so really what I believe is most important is policy restriction and community-driven policy restriction on preventing an AI from creating a chemical weapon in the home. Doing things that are just sort of giving people knowledge and power to use it for evil is where we've got to try and restrict it. But AI on its own really doesn't care about destroying humanity. And I believe that very strongly. It doesn't care. It's far more sophisticated to want to just destroy humans for the sake of destroying humans. It doesn't need to compete with us for food or water. It really just wants energy to create more computing and decision making. And there are better places than planet Earth to do that even. So I think it's about humans abusing the AI is what we've got to really focus on for the next 10 years. And then we had one more question here. And then.
Thank you. Hi, Graham. So you mentioned, 5 years' time, things might be unrecognizable. In your view, who will be that cluster of players that will be leading in this space?
I think the move, and I talk a lot about this in my book. I think the movement is towards decentralization. It's towards ultimately groups of developers and talent will work together in a more decentralized manner. They won't work for big companies necessarily. And what we're seeing with open source, the open source movement in AI is incredible. There are AI that are competitive to OpenAI and Anthropic that have been developed by open source communities. And I think the data, when people learn how valuable their data is for training AI, they will want to make sure they can leverage that data with these open source AI communities. So things will move towards a more decentralized, open, community-driven AI model that will be very easy to monetize through things like digital assets. But I think the most powerful AIs will come from a decentralized, open source-driven community in the end. That will be the Instagram, iPhone moment. Yeah. And I think I'm at time. Unless one more. I could go all day.
Thank you. I'll make it quick. So, if we use something like ChatGPT as an intermediary or its successor, how do we think about search engine optimization, or moreover, how do we get our products and brands? In that space.
So first of all, today, the SEO development using a ChatGPT LLM, it's still questionable about what that means for SEO. I think it's pretty hard to detect if you do the right prompt engineering and you use the right unique inputs about your products and business into the system. I think you'll be okay to use an LLM to accelerate your SEO today. And then I think the SEO concept in the future is like the digital twin will become like an SEO strategy, but it won't be an SEO, it'll be an AI engine optimization. AI EO will be the new concept, and you will basically be tuning your information on thousands of more or tens of thousands more parameters than you do with text and keywords for this AI. So that's where we're going to move to. So the SEO mindset, I think, is very applicable to where the AI will be making decisions. So, but I think that really is, I think that is all we have time for. Thank you so much, everybody. I really enjoyed talking to you all. And get in touch.